because you have to learn to become indifferent. The stock market does not care about you. It literally, I promise you, it doesn't care. You have to be content. Like if you're not content with where you are right now, I promise you're not gonna be content with $1 million sitting in the bank.
Yep.
As a trader, you want volatility. You need volatility to find opportunity to trade. Basically, I made almost the entire amount of money that I made for the first 8 months or 7 months of the year.
Ryan makes money in approximately 7 dozen ways. He trades options. He's a long-term investor. He does e-commerce extremely well, like millions and millions of dollars in e-commerce. Companies give him equity for advising them and helping them grow. He sells courses. He does search engine optimization. He recruits affiliates for offers. He does sales letters and webinars. Am I missing any of them?
Quite a few, but there are more.
Tell me a few of them that I missed.
Well, I've been buying and acquiring media sites for a long time. And with that,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, with that email, lists included in that, and then kind of basically utilizing that data to make new offers, bought intellectual property and rebrand that property.
Wait, what? I didn't know this part. Give me an example.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of one?
So in the finance space, for example, I bought intellectual property for about 15 courses and rebranded some of those. And
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, so you repackaged them and then sold them?
Yeah, under a pseudonym.
Are you allowed to say what it was?
No, they're still being sold now.
Oh, you're selling them right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so that's a flip just happening right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And
By the way, he's good at all of them. Like really good at SEO. Millions of dollars on Amazon. Millions of dollars sending cold traffic to e-commerce websites. Like, I think lots of money doing search engine optimization. He's good at all of it. So this is hey Joe Cochran, thanks for being here. What I want to know, first of all, another thing, he buys cryptos when they're at 9 cents and sells them when they're at $9. So what I want to know, Ryan,
yeah,
in today's noisy world, how do you find opportunities that you decide are worth pursuing?
I think you have to have a general thesis for what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? So for me, I'm really after cash flow. So early on in my career, it was about making income. And I think that there's like people who want to work from home, like have a job and just work at home. They sort of experienced that maybe during the pandemic and they want to keep that, right? There's people who want to make money online. And that to me is like, oh, I can flip stuff on Etsy. I can go buy furniture and redo it and then sell that maybe locally or whatever.
I can have a hustle that's on my own.
Yeah. But it's more of like an income, right? And then there's people who want to create a business, and that business, the goal of that business, the objective might be to grow it and sell the business. It might be to spit off cash flow. For me, I've kind of been in a wide range of these things over, almost 20 years of being online since 2003. And so currently, like my only real objective is to generate cash flow to then reinvest into other assets, right? And whether that be the stock market or buying businesses or whatever it might be, it just depends on what's the best opportunity for me at that given moment.
Okay, so like that general thesis makes total sense. Yeah. You make your money and you invest it long term, right? Yeah. This is capitalism 101.
But I think the key differentiator there for me is that money I want to be as passive as possible. So like you mentioned, I do all these different things, but I have, say, affiliate websites that generate traffic through either organic rankings, through an email list, or through paid traffic, or all of the above. And that generates, I get checks every month, or I get payments every week or whatever. And I might not have touched it for 8 years. And so to me, that's incredibly powerful because
of course it is. Of course it's incredibly
Well, I don't want to call it passive income, but it's very similar to just like passive income, almost like a dividend.
But I get it. But like what I'm getting at is most people specialize in one of those things. You do all of these things, and you somehow have time to be able to like pick which crypto is going to go up 100x. I've never seen anyone in my life be good at all of these different things, and you don't work.
Well,
You only rock climb. You watch Seinfeld and you rock climb and you go to UFC events. You don't work. You don't have a job. So like, how do you do this?
Well, I think that comes down to, I mean, again, going back to the thesis, it's part of it. But I think what a lot of people miss is I've been doing this thing for so long. There's a quote, you've probably heard it. It goes something like, jack of all trades, you know, that the quote about the jack of all trades is master of none. But the quote actually goes further beyond that, where it talks about, you know, jack of all trades and master of none, but better than one. And something like this, you know, but basically the idea is
that was like, Abraham Lincoln, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyways, so like the idea, I remember really hearing early on, focus. But in school, you know, college, I tried a lot of things. Like I changed my major like 5 times. I studied abroad. I went from marketing to French. I went from that to recreation and leisure. I didn't know what I want to do. I was like, I'm going to go do Knowles, you know, like an Outward Bound type school thing. I'm going to go study in south of France, just like exploring, taking all sorts of random classes. And, you know, I still ended up graduating within the appropriate amount of time. But, you know, I was just like exploring all these things. And I really believe I kind of became sort of a polymath, like someone who understands a lot of different stuff. And I can't remember I remember reading one time, I don't remember who said this, but something to the tune of like, if you really master one skill, it's very hard to get into the top 1% of 1% within that skill. Say finance, right? And you want to become, you know, big mergers and acquisitions, doing all this M&A. And maybe you need to be in that top 1% of 1% to make $10 million a year or something. But then if you stack on this skill and you stack on this skill, you could be in the top 10% of 3 or 4 skills. And now when you combine those skills, your skill set is way more valuable than that other person who's just in the top 1% of that 1%. I think it was Scott Galloway, your favorite person.
I think it was Scott Adams. He calls it the talent stack.
Maybe, yeah.
Like being
is
top
it Scott
10.
Adams? Is that the...
He's a Dilbert guy.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was him.
Yeah, so he says being in the top 10 or 20% in one skill and then combining it with another makes you uniquely qualified in where those things overlap. Yeah. And that makes you the master of that domain.
Yeah. So for example, like when I learned e-commerce originally, which is funny, is like I was importing stuff from China and selling stuff on eBay and, you know, other sites like that back in 2005, 2004. You know, like I remember packages arriving just not even in boxes, just wrapped in tape, you know, from China, and selling this stuff on eBay. I learned a lot through that process, right? Back then there's no courses, you know, it was like I was just figuring this stuff out, right? I would go to garage sales. I would literally, back then, nowadays you can literally like scan barcodes and like, oh, it sells on Amazon for this, sells over here. But I started doing that and I started trying to figure things out there. And then the information that I learned through that process actually helped me when I got back into e-commerce back in 2015. And when I moved to Asia, we started our office there, I leveraged my former partner's Daniel's skills, where when he learned e-commerce, English was his 4th language. He had a horrible time. Like early on, his English was really, really bad. So what did he do? He was forced to outsource everything because he couldn't communicate with these other people in English. And so by leveraging that, I learned how to really build and structure a team of people in the Philippines and China and all this different stuff, which then served me the next venture and served me the next venture. So it was like all along the way for almost 2 decades, I've been picking up skill sets. I've been picking up little things, and I've just really kind of kept them away. And I'm meticulously, you know, note taker, and my memory is normally, the recall is like incredible. Like I wasn't joking like before, like there's something, I'm getting some stuff tested and stuff, but Like my memory is something weird going on. Like I literally couldn't remember what side of the road you drive on the other day. Where it's like obviously,
it's because it's too full of options trading
Maybe.
and stock trading knowledge.
Yeah, so something's going on with the short-term memory, but the long-term memory is still there, fortunately. So,
okay, I appreciate that. It doesn't help me none. But I mean, we'll get to this.
Okay.
But like, I genuinely want to find like what the nut of this is, because there's something about you. Every time I meet with you, you have some other weird random thing going on that's absolutely crushing it. Don't worry, I'll find it. But to echo your point, I had coffee this morning with someone here in Austin. His name is John Durant, and he has a fund for health brands. And one of his contacts is Mark Sisson. Mark Sisson started this. He started Primal Kitchen, but he didn't start Primal Kitchen until he was in his 50s.
Okay.
And sold it for hundreds of millions of dollars when he was in his 60s. And I said, Mark Sisson gives me hope for myself, because I'm like, you can peak in your 60s.
The person that does it is Kathy Wood. Like Kathy Wood, like she peaked at 65. Like, you know what? If I peak at 65, that's fine. I got
Colonel
30
Sanders.
years.
There's a bajillion.
So, like, to your point, there is something to just stacking those talents and those experiences and waiting for your pitch. The thing that annoys me so much about you, though, is you seem to hit every pitch. Like,
know where the strike zone is,
Okay, so I think that your superpower, like this domain that you've mastered with all these different talent stacks, is finding opportunities. That's what I perceive about you. You just seem to have this knack for being able to see the opportunity, seeing what's worth pursuing. Do you think that that's close?
100%. But I think part of it is I have leverage because I've been exposed to so many things that where someone might look at an e-commerce business and think, oh, I need to grow this and I need to do it this way, where they're playing checkers, in my opinion, where I'm looking at the board 30 moves ahead because I've seen the variety, right? Like not just in my own businesses, but I've had other friends grow massively successful businesses, and I've seen the inner workings and I know what was the tipping point for them. And so when I look at it, I just look at it with a different color glass. And I think that is the difference, whether you want to say it's like, oh, I can see that opportunity. It's just I have a much different perspective.
So when you're evaluating, like I think you're kind of in transition right now, like looking for your next big thing.
Next main focus.
But you still trade options, you still invest, like you still have a bunch of things going on.
Yeah.
So how are you evaluating what is worth your time in the next kind of chapter of your career?
Yeah, I think for me, I want to really have something that I can sink my teeth into. I want something that excites me, that, I love trading. I started teaching trading back in January of 2018, and it was on a whim. Like I didn't really know if anybody would be interested. I didn't really know.
You started teaching it, or you started doing it?
Teaching it.
Teaching it, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if anybody would be interested in anything like that. And, for me, again, like I sort of see the matrix when I'm trading. And to me, it just was interesting to teach it because you learn something about yourself when you're trying to teach someone else the same skill. And you start to have to peel back all of these little layers, and you have to think about, like, how are they thinking about it? Or how did I think about it? Because I started trading originally back in the early 2000s, 2003, when I first kind of discovered it, really cut my teeth, 2004. The world was a very different place, right? So it's like trying to think, like, I was a very different person, I was quite young, and just trying to think about that perspective. So for me,
have you been doing it consistently for that long?
Yeah. So, there were some times where I took breaks from trading, but yeah, it's always kind of been there in the background.
I'm actually glad you said this because you seem so naturally good at it.
Yeah.
And I hadn't factored in, like, I've been doing this for 9 months.
Yeah.
And you maybe a year since I first went through your course.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for, I think that was 18 years that you just spat off. So I actually feel better about myself now.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing about that is like, some people think I don't day trade, right? So I could never do that where you're kind of dialed in, you're like plugged into the matrix for the whole time the market's open, maybe even after hours or pre-market. But for me, like, yeah, there might've been times where I took off, but maybe I only did like 2 trades that year. But that, to me, it's okay, right? I'm a position trader where if I'm trading with larger sums of money, I might have a handful of trades and I make plenty of money for the entire year. You know, I mean, this last month, basically I made almost the entire amount of money that I made for the first 8 months or 7 months of the year. In
August, you made about as much money. Just over as you did all of the previous months combined
this year. Yeah.
Trading options.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to explain this to people. This has happened to me actually in December before. In 2017, I made a lot of money going up to December, but then I made more money in December than I did the entire year. So to me,
and is that because of market trends? Because
opportunity. So the thing
that's it. Okay. Spotting opportunities.
Yeah. So the thing that people often forget is volatility in everything. Volatility in someone's life. Someone's going through a divorce. Someone's going through bad business partnership. There's opportunity, or life change. There's opportunity to buy businesses there, right? There's opportunities to help that person out, create something new as they transition, right? And get equity and help them grow a company. There's, volatility in the marketplace, say Amazon, when things started to get really hard. And then all of a sudden, all of these competitors who were maybe buying reviews or had sort of systems that were maybe gray, and Amazon whacked all these people, massive opportunity for other people if you know how to position it. Stock market, same thing. As a trader, you want volatility. You need volatility to find opportunity to trade. So everyone always thinks about like, the market's going like this, or I don't know if the market's going to pull back or do this sort of stuff. It's like, I'm happy. Like, I'm happy in July when the market sold off. I'm happy in July when the market sold off, or in August when the market sold off as well, because it's opening up the door for new opportunity.
So I just had the biggest aha while you're saying that, which is you spend a long time getting good at a craft and getting paid to be good at a craft.
Yeah.
And then you kind of wait for your moment. And that moment happens when there is blood in the streets, or when other people panic. So like based on what I know about some of your options trading strategy, and I'm actually going to pull one up here.
Sure.
I know that one of the things that you look for is stocks that have had long trajectories of growth, and you look for when you have indicators that say they're oversold.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, you tune in on that. And I think that's why August was such a profitable month for you, was you had several of those trend continuations.
Well, the broad market delivered that same thing. So when the market was continually going high, there's naturally, it's going to happen. There's going to be selling. There's going to be profit taking. This is what makes the market go round, right? And as that occurred, it moved into an extreme scenario, meaning that sort of one way of looking at it behind the scenes is that as some people started to sell, other people started to see the market go down and go, oh crap, I better take some of my profits too. Because again, think back, March of last year at the bottom, the S&P is up over 100% from that point, right? Think about that for a moment. That is insanity, given everything that's still going on. At the time, it's just so classic. And there's a third Ryan that we know, a friend of ours, where I remember when he and I we recorded like an hour-long video for some mutual friends and then my audience as well. And we were talking about this mega sell-off in March of last year, which I started to alert my students about in February, right? And I saw that again, huge opportunity. Right? Huge opportunity. Anytime you see not only market correction, but the market dropping 30+%.
Yeah.
And other stocks, some of them dropping way higher,
Yeah.
50, 60, 70%. You have to think, as a long-term investor, I was 35 at the time. Now I'm 36. Like, if I can buy some of these things now, where do I see them in 20 years or 30 years? Or even just if I want to buy the S&P, I look at it as collapsing the time, right? Because if I'm buying it and then by the end of the year, I'm up 70%, which was roughly the case on the like VTI, or just SPY, and many of these indexes, right? They're up roughly like 70% by the end of that same year. You think about if the market averages 8%, 10%, depending what you're looking at, how much time did you just save yourself? You did that in 9 months, right? You did that in 9 months. And so to me, it's not even just seeing that opportunity, because everyone sees opportunity every day in a lot of ways, especially entrepreneurs. We're very good at seeing opportunity. But I think part of it is having the courage to take what often is the no-brainer opportunity, but the hard one to do.
Yes.
But then having also the courage to say no to that other opportunity.
Yes.
And for me, I've been good and bad at that over the years, where there's been instances where I've maybe said yes to an opportunity and that was a business partnership and it worked well for a while, but then it sort of had an implosion, right? But for me, I don't like dwell on that thing. I always have believed in doing the right thing, trying to help that thing phase out and do the best I can, help the individual if I can, and move forward on my own, because I've always believed that I know no matter what, I'll be able to start something new. No matter what, I'll be able to have success. No matter what, I've got these other businesses, and that's a very powerful place to be. When you don't need money, the decisions that you make are a lot easier and a lot clearer.
I have learned so much about you in the last 5 minutes. We could end this now and I'm satisfied. But what I'm realizing about you as we're talking is that this applies to all these different things that you have your hands in.
Totally.
Which is you wait for your pitch on the right stock options to
The
buy.
Science of Hitting, Ted Williams.
You
read that book.
You wait for your pitch when it comes to like what business you're going to start, but you're building your skill set along the way, and you're not romantic about where you are in the process, right?
No.
So like one of the things, I was so mad when we were working together for a while that I was so upset that it was such an internal game. Right? Trading options, like the longer we worked together, the more I realized it was like all about managing yourself. Like you could teach me the principles in like 20 minutes and the rest was like training your brain. I hate that. I hate it. But I realize about you that you will look at like 9 opportunities and pick 2 or 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Where in my brain, I was like, I must make every single one of these opportunities work. Mm-hmm. I'll look at a chart and I'll super analyze it and I'll try to find the opportunity, which is the exact wrong thing to do. And I had to ask myself, like, where else is this showing up in life? Like, as terrible as it is, I hate the quote, how you do anything is how you do everything, because it's so convicting. But does that show up in relationships? Like every time you're in a relationship, is it like, have to make this one work? Every time you're in a business, have to make this one work? And how paralyzing that is.
Right.
Where you are looking at it like, not the right one, it's coming, the right trade's on its way, the right opportunity is right around the corner. Don't need to worry about where I am right now. Strike.
Yeah, I think, one way of looking at it is investing, particularly trading, like this position size trading with options, which is what I do. It's one of the greatest personal development courses anyone can ever do, because it's going to shine a light immediately on all of your flaws and all of your thinking.
I've learned this.
And the biggest thing that people start to realize is it will crush your ego faster than anything that you can possibly imagine. Right. And the reason why that's so good is because you have to learn to become indifferent. The stock market does not care about you. It literally, I promise you, it doesn't care. So why do you care so much about it? right? Like it's almost as you're trying to chase after this white rabbit, the stock market is just like, it's running around, and it doesn't matter, right? It literally doesn't matter. As a short-term trader, you have to think from this perspective, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to be drawn into it. You're going to be dealing with emotion, fear, greed. You're going to be dealing with anxiety, like you're talking about, like, which ones of these do I do? I got to trade all of them. I don't really know. And at the end of the day, like, you get a winning trade, you get a losing trade. Okay, it's normal, right? Did you maximize the winner? Did you minimize the loser? Did you learn something? Can you apply that again? Did you pick up a nuance that made sense that now, again, I gave you the playbook, right? Like, this is the playbook that I learned taking the punches along the way, and there's a difference. And having, I think, sort of, there's a benefit and a con to it. Someone showing you the way, it's great. It's a little bit easier. You're not sitting there like laying in bed thinking about things with the market and trying to figure out, like, wait, why is that happening? Or what does that mean? Okay, if that happens, how does this occur? Like, and you're trying to think, and I'm trying to think not just for myself, but I'm trying to think of the psychology of the other investors, right? Because that's who's helping move the market. And so what is the normal person doing? What is when they're trading, why do I wait after the first hour? I remember when my mentor taught me that 20 years ago. I contemplated that over and over and over again. And his answer was so general but specific to that. Well, that's when the basic dumb money is moving, right? All the normal people invest in the first hour. There's increased volatility. We want the dust to settle, right? But I would think about that over and over and over again. And is there opportunity there? Can you see stuff in pre-market and volume and all this sort of stuff? And over the years, I just sort of evolved how I did things and what is important and what's not important, right? You could ask me about a lot of different, even other options trading strategies, and I will know nothing about them, right? But I know this incredibly well. And I'm totally content doing that. And I'm just going to do it today. I'm going to do it 10 years from now, 20 years from now,
Yeah, it is really amazing how process oriented you seem to make business.
Yeah.
But the contrast of that is, it's interesting how emotional we make money as human beings. And you seem totally comfortable just waiting for your pitch.
Yeah, you have to be content. Like, if you're not content with where you are right now, I promise you, you're not going to be content with $1 million sitting in the bank.
Yep.
I was just as happy when I was sleeping in my car going rock climbing on trips, and literally my friend and I would lay down a mattress topper in the back of his Toyota 4Runner and go climbing for a week, as I am now, right? Like, you have to understand that money doesn't change too much. It makes a lot of things easier, and it's nice to have the stability and all this sort of stuff. And I used to hate when people would say that sort of thing when I didn't have money. But what I mean is, for me, as like who I am as a person, I still want to go rock climbing. I still want to go play Frisbee golf. I still want to just go to the music festival and have a drink with a friend. Like, I still want to do all those things that make me happy and make me feel content. I look at business as the same way. I'm now fortunately in a position where I don't ever have to make the decisions on what business I do or what promotion I run, or if I run a promotion or whatever it might be, for money. I don't need it, right? Like, so it's like I have that ability to, kind of what you're saying is, wait for that pitch. But it's more like I have the ability to be more like, to contemplate on it more, to think about it, to, start something and say, you know what, I don't need to move that forward. Right.
What I want to do here is I want to go through one trade. I'm going to actually go through a trade I made today.
Okay.
And what I thought would be fun is, I think this is like the simplest trade strategy that I thought would just be like the easiest to explain. And I'm going to pull up the chart that I traded today, and then I'm going to share it with you. All right. So this is the trade that I made today. Stand by. And if you are listening to this on a podcast later, this is going to really suck for you, because you're not going to see any of this. But this is the trade that I made today, Ryan. So this is Adobe.
Yep.
Now, first of all, I'm going to explain my reasoning, because I think this type of trade is the simplest type of trade, and then you can poke holes in how I did.
Sure.
All right. So this is long-term, an upward trend, trend that kind of goes up consistently, kind of comes up, sometimes will flatline and then pop out, flatline, pop out, but overall goes up.
Yep.
So right here, we had this major sell-off a few days back, right here, which has happened a couple times. It's happened right here. It sort of happened right here, happened right here. And right after these pullbacks, it often kind of shoots up. So this is what you would call a trend continuation trade, I think, anyway.
Okay.
So long-term trends, and then we have this significant pullback, and then we pop back up over this blue line, which is the 7-day average. For those who are not familiar, this is an indicator right here called the Williams %R. And when it dips down below this level, we would call that oversold. And since it's oversold and had this indication and a long-term upward trend, I made a trade today because it confirmed over the 7-day. So I think this is like the simplest type of trade that you've taught me.
Okay.
Would you evaluate my trade today?
So first off, what time of day did you enter this?
I entered this at about noon.
About noon. Okay.
No, it was, sorry. So the broad markets were down today.
Okay.
I waited for the NASDAQ to turn positive. And I don't remember what time that was.
And what is your exit strategy currently?
Okay, so my exit strategy would be if this came down below the 7-day average.
Just
So
below, close below.
if it closed below the 7-day.
And to the upside, what numbers are you paying attention to?
I'm paying attention to 675 because it's bounced off 675 here before. If it bounced off that again, I might consider exiting the trade.
Okay. So I think this is a very standard trend continuation. You have an extended trend. Prices moved from about 440 to almost 675 over the last 6 months. Again, think about what's been happening in the broad market. There's been selling occurring, right? So we have the exact same setup occurring on the broad market, right? The exact same trend continuation setup. So that's a bullish sign in and of itself. In this instance, sort of think about the mechanics that go behind it for people that might not be too familiar with it. When there's selling that is occurring, which Ryan pointed out happened 4 bars back, and it moves down, that Williams %R trigger tells us that it's to an extreme degree, meaning it's too much. Now things have
It's overcorrected.
People have the natural tendency to then move back to balance. So what needs to happen for price to move back to balance? Well, price needs to go up, right? Buying needs to occur. And you can see buying moved up on higher volume, which is a positive thing, meaning that it's happening quickly, right? And we can see that it occurred literally in just a matter of a couple of days. So I think that this trade is perfectly reasonable.
Yes.
I think that you've got a exit strategy in place. If you look at the 1-month chart of Adobe real quick, while you're doing that, you waited for the market to turn, which it was moving back.
Is that why you asked me what time I made the trade?
Because you want to be following the trend, right? You don't want to be swimming against the current here. And we can see here in this instance, there is some resistance at 670, maybe just below it.
There's just like this.
Yeah, you can see if you look at all these closes around 665, they're kind of showing some resistance here.
So that would just be something to watch out for.
Yeah. So what we have to think about is from a standpoint of a position trader, you've sort of now stacked the deck in your favor, right? You followed a system, you followed your structure, you've elected to choose options and a trade that fits within your position size, and you have an exit strategy. You've done a lot of things that you can really do to stack the deck in your favor. Very strategic, right? Most people, my uncle told me buy Tesla.
That's right.
I heard a guy in the subway.
This was a very logical, and I want to stress, this was the most unemotional decision for me because it was just like, oh, this looked very obvious.
Yeah. So now at this stage, because there might be that resistance there, all we need to do is say, hey, I'm going to maybe be a little patient. It might come back. It might fall back tomorrow. the markets have been struggling. It might shift. And if it comes back towards the 7-day, I got to stick with my rules. It might come towards the 7-day, which is going to be a line of support, right? It could bounce off that. It could move higher. So what timetable did you give yourself? How long did you buy out the option?
I gave myself till December.
Okay.
So 3 months.
So you have plenty of time to be patient with this by giving yourself more time. And what strike price did you choose?
$650.
Okay. So you went further in the money.
Yep.
So that makes it more horsepower for someone that might not be familiar with it. That means there will be more movement. Oftentimes in this situation, one thing that someone could do is they could buy out to December or January, but then also go to the 675 or 680.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that initially, if there's a little bouncing around, it's going to be muted. Right? The movement's going to be muted. So if it falls back tomorrow and closes below the 7-day, instead of losing maybe 15%, you might have lost 8%, right? But if it starts taking off, you're going to make a little less because you have more time and you're waiting for that intrinsic value to be there, that horsepower. But I think all in all, it's good. I think the biggest thing to do is watch how price is going to progress. As long as price is staying over the 7-day, I think it makes sense, in my opinion, to be bullish. For those that might be thinking, oh, I want to open this tomorrow, I think you'd be a bit foolish to do that because.
And tell me why. Why was it be foolish to do this now?
Because here's the thing, like you get to the point then where you're sort of trying to chase a trade. You miss the real key entry. And what that does is that changes the relationship between risk and reward, right? It affects how much risk you have and how much reward you potentially have. But then it also sets a bad precedent. I've always been a big believer in that, if I'm going to follow a trade and a structure this way and I break the rules today, the next time I'm going to be far more likely to do that, right? So you set this precedent and this tone.
That is so true.
Where it's like, I'm going to bend it just a tiny bit. I'll wait one more day, just one more day. And then next thing you know, you're down 50%. And you say to yourself, well, if I would have gotten out when I should have, I would have lost 15%, right? Or 20% or whatever the number might be. And now the next trade, you're a little bit emotionally charged. You're a little bit fired up. Now you're thinking you got to get that back. Horrible feelings to be having as a trader, because now can you be indifferent here? It's a lot harder, right? So when you break those simple rules, you actually psychologically make things a lot more challenging for yourself.
I wanted to ask you about investing and the markets like where we are right now.
Sure.
Because we keep hitting these all-time highs and inflation is...
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. And inflation is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And there is on one hand, there's FOMO. I don't want to miss out on everything that's growing. Yeah. And then there's fear over the economy slowing or buying at all-time highs. You don't seem emotionally attached to any of that.
Why would I?
So I don't know why you're not.
Okay, why are you?
Because I could lose it.
Fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Ryan.
Okay. So does that mean that you're maybe trading with money or investing money you shouldn't be? Or does that mean that you need to shift kind of your thinking about, do you need this money tomorrow?
No.
We're in this beautiful home. Like, you're going to be able to cover the mortgage if you lose the money?
You should be okay there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. That's good. You can buy more of this delicious wine.
It is actually pretty good wine.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
So, think about
Coisson?
why you're afraid, right? Like, okay, were you afraid?
By the way, I often call Ryan the Jordan Peterson of options trading.
I still don't even really know what that means. But.
Well, you gave me one of the best insights ever. We'll come back to this, but this is such a good point that I don't want to miss. This was literally a moment I'll never forget in my life. Ryan sent me a video response to a trade that I don't remember what the trade was. I don't think it had gone well, but he said to me, I can tell that you are taking these trades personally. And I just paused and I was like, how am I taking this personally? And inside I noticed that if a trade went well, my thoughts around that was, I'm a genius.
Right. Yeah.
And if it did not go well, my thought process was, I'm an idiot. I'll never be good at this. I'm a big failure. And it would just like compound and that thought train would continue to go.
Yeah.
How interesting. And you put a spotlight on that. And it made me pause and think about where that shows up elsewhere in my life. A business goes well, a partnership goes well. I'm a genius. Everything I touch turns to gold. And if it doesn't go well, I'm an idiot. I'm a failure. I'm behind. And that thought train continues going. Neither one is true because there's other factors. There's luck and there's timing and there's your partner and there's the markets and there's all these other things. So that was such a click for me.
Yeah.
Where I finally got a glimpse of how you're able to be less attached to the result of something. I'm not there yet.
Well,
but it was a huge moment for me.
You know how I learned that, right?
By making the mistake?
Yeah, I took a beating, you know? I mean, when I started trading, I tripled my entire account in 90 days. And then I proceeded to make every mistake that I've taught you not to make in the field, like on the field of play, as Todd Herman would say, right? Like I was out there and sitting in my dorm room, taking a beating and looking at myself going, and I had to literally step back and go, what is happening here? And this is how it all started to come together, you know? The beginning part was, yeah, I had the fundamentals, but I got partially lucky.
Okay, so let me say this differently. You knew how, and you applied it and got lucky, and then you got whacked.
Yeah, because what happened was I did the opposite, right? My ego was saying I was a genius. And then so I started to bend the rules and I would go, oh, okay, yeah, normally I would only trade with 10% into one trade. I'm going to go 30 in this one. I feel really good about it. You know, I made all of these, like, now what I look at is like not habits of winning trader, like, you know, these basically practices that losing traders implement. And I just fell into those traps, right? But that is the seduction of being 19 years old and like you think you found your thing. And I really truly believe that like trading is like one of the things that I'm naturally gifted at. And I just have a really easy ability to now remove emotion and be indifferent about things, which gives me a very big advantage. But yeah, I mean, I learned that making the mistakes. I learned that sitting there dealing with the pain, you know, being like, holy crap, you know, and I have other experiences that have been that way with business, right? I learned by, you know, taking those beatings.
And the opposite, by following the process, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. I mean, Dick's Sporting Goods the other day. I mean, I traded Dick's Sporting Goods. Like very similar to Adobe. 2 days into the trade, it went up 16%, the stock, right? I was like, I made so much money, you know, it was insanity. Like it was just, but I got out of the trade because now it was unreasonable for me to still be in the trade.
Yeah.
What happened with Dick's Sporting Goods? It went up for like another week or week and a half, and then prices pulled way back, right? Like I didn't know that price. Yeah, I could have made instead of over 200%, 300%, maybe 400% if I would have been lucky, but I could have never known that. So I can't think that way, but I let that luck help me, not distract me, right? Like I want it to serve me and I have to know it for what it is, you know. It's like, okay, how could I know? You know, I could pat myself and look how smart I am, but really it's just, you know, fortunate circumstances.
Yeah, it was such a realization for me, just having you point that out, because so often, like, we take our results in business personally.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an idiot for starting this business or selling this product or partnering with this person. Of course it's going to be like that on the next one.
Yeah.
Or this relationship sucked. Of course the next one's going to be just like it. And we develop these patterns of thought around it that are not true. And trading options highlight, like, it was some of the best personal development I ever did.
It truly
is.
It
just highlighted all of that.
Like I really think like if someone just started trading, even if they weren't really making a ton of money, it would be incredibly worth it to them because they're going to learn so much about themselves and it's so applicable in everything else. And, going back to, I mean, that could be part of the reason I have the ability to spot opportunity so well because I've been focusing on looking at opportunity in the market for almost 2 decades.
Could you extrapolate how looking at opportunities in the markets fits into finding a product to sell on Amazon or running traffic to e-commerce site or buying up a content site or investing in a business? How does that apply?
I think sometimes it's just when you look at something, it either makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And for me, students ask me, like, how long does it take you to look at your watch list? Or, I'm like going through the watch list. It's 60 companies and it's taking me like 20 gajillion hours. And it never makes sense to me because it's like, I looked at it the day before and I looked at it the day before that. And I looked at it the week before that, right? These are the same companies basically. And so I know what's going on. It's like, hey, did Adobe, for example, in my notes, is Adobe going to go up today? And is the NASDAQ going to go up today? That's it. Like, that's all I'm looking for, right? Then I could potentially enter a position as you did, right? There's other companies that had that exact same setup today, right? So I'm not really taking in so much information. I'm stacking information.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. Like if I know affiliate marketing and if I know, well, let's take it different. If I know a skill, Google AdWords, I started running Google ads back in 2006, 2007, maybe. I think it's 2007. And if I know that skill as well as I do for me and my style of running Google ads, which there's a lot of styles, I can look at an e-commerce business through that lens. Can I make that work? Yes or no? Right. And there was one that I partnered with last end of 2019, basically 2020. And I knew based on what they were doing with AdWords and the product and the profit numbers that I could scale that business with AdWords, right? And I could use AdWords machine learning to scale that business, right? And I did. And then all of the other avenues, Walmart, Amazon benefited from that, right? So now that I have the skill, I can drop it on all of these businesses. And I could say, okay, does that work for here? No. Does that work for here? No. Does that work for here? Yes. Okay, that's interesting. Let me know more about that. Dig into it. Okay, pass, next, And so that's how I look at it. And the same thing with media sites or content sites or whatever. Like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a site that has opportunity. So that looks like a myriad of things. Like if I'm looking at buying sites, well, how does the person get traffic? If it's just SEO, ding, 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 sign me up, because I can quickly figure out what are the keywords generating actual sales and then buy traffic from those exact keywords. Okay, now I'm probably making more than double that business in a matter of 60 days, if that. I remember one of the first sites me and a partner at the time bought. He funded it. I ran them. And so basically what happened was he was running, he wanted to run these like media properties and generate more cash flow. And so we bought these AdSense sites. And literally these things were making barely anything. But combined, we spent about $70,000. But I had a good AdSense rep who I knew could help us, right? So basically I went to them and said, hey, what do you think? Like, what would we need to do? And it was, we'll kill off these 10 people that are advertising because then they're bidding really low. We'll switch to just image ads and we're going to move this unit off the page. So it's going to give you just the highest clickers. And immediately those sites went from basically making like $2,000 a month to $8,000. And those sites, I have no part in them anymore, but they're still around to this day, still cranking that money away. And literally this individual, we were all in, paid for the whole business with less than a year and in profit and still earning cash flow for them for almost 10 years.
Oh my goodness. The beauty of that is you had the skill set or you had the secret advantage.
Totally.
that you earned.
Yeah.
And you earned by learning the skill, applying it, taking your licks, learning the process.
Yeah.
And that gave you one piece of the talent stack, which was AdWords.
Yeah.
Right? And then you take that and you apply it to a content site where it's the same. You're applying that process, and now you are learning the next skill, which is the content site and SEO. Now you know two things.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're bundling all these things together. So then eventually you get to a point where it's like, this last e-commerce business, for example, is like, I knew, okay, if we get affiliates, we're going to make a lot more money. That's going to help SEO. That's going to help paid ads because they're going to build reviews. That's going to help Amazon. It's going to help everything, right? If we get people on YouTube, that's going to help brand presence. It's a very like visible product, right? If we could build that up, like all of these little things feed the whole machine, right? So you start thinking, like I felt like a lot of times I find people will think, and their thinking will be so siloed that that's not wrong, right? But like people will be like, oh, I'm selling on Amazon,
right?
But I'm building an audience and I'm focused on Amazon. I'm doing all these things for Amazon. That's great. If you're making, say, $1 million a year on Amazon and you don't have a website, you're probably missing out on a free $100,000 a year.
Yeah, this is why I cringe when people say I have an Amazon business.
Yeah, so it's like then
if you don't have a business,
if you're making that much money on Amazon and then you do have a site, but you're not running brand search or you're not running, Google Shopping or something like that, you're missing out on easy money, right? Like if you're not, all these little simple things, but they bundle and stack together. And instead of thinking in this sort of silo, like I expand out wide and I think about all of those different opportunities. And then it's a process of going, well, if I think about all of these, which ones are the biggest needle movers? And some of them will stack, right? So if I grow AdWords, that's going to naturally help Amazon. That's going to naturally drive more brand search because more people are going to go see the site. If I get affiliates promoting, that's naturally going to drive more traffic, which is going to increase retargeting, which is going to build our email list, which is going to increase sale promotions, which is going to increase this. And you think about it that way, you're just like, okay, what is the right order? And you have to think about that prioritization.
I really want your brain.
Yeah,
all right. So here's what's going on in my mind right now, Ryan.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm literally having this thought. It's like, I actually don't know what my talent stack is. Right. So like I could tell you a few things I'm good at.
Yeah.
But you seem to have this Swiss Army knife that is very well sharpened. Where you can
MacGyver was my favorite TV show.
where you can like look at a business and say, oh, I'm good at this lever.
Yeah.
I'm good at this lever. And I don't think I'm that clear yet.
Well, I think there's a few ways to think about it, right? Like for you could be good at hiring people to put in position to think that way. For me, the way that I always looked at it is I believe in having team and having like building a company. Like if I want to build a big company, like my job really is I need to bring in the right people. I need to maybe handle very high level things like maybe some of the logistics, and there has to be money to obviously pay the staff. Like I need to do those things. I don't need to go in there and set up AdWords, right? But by working through a long spectrum of businesses over the years, I've always believed that to hire and to really teach someone to build a system and the process, that I needed to have at least some working knowledge.
Sure.
But I've also always been like, oh, okay, you're doing that. Talk to me about that. Why are we doing it this way? Like, how are you setting it up? Let's build that SOP. Okay, and I would always want to know the structure, why this is happening, why that person's thinking that way, and so I can maybe help, but also so that I could learn, right? So I've always approached it that way. But for me, it's helped me and it's enabled me to now. It's like every day or every year, I feel like it's easier to see the opportunity or to just live in a world where no matter what's going on in the news or anything like that, like I'm never fearful of, like, I always know there's opportunity. I always know there's businesses, I know there's products to sell. I always know, there's companies that need my help if I wanted, and I'll never want for anything,
And that's true all the time.
Yeah.
And like, that's true all the time. and it's completely in your control to become valuable and skillful to be able to help somebody else.
Totally.
As long as you can spot the opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, I do that all the time. With, I mean, I have friends here in Austin that, you know, they're working on stuff and it's just fun. Like, oh, like you're doing that thing. And like, have you thought of licensing that? Right. Like, have you thought of creating a deal with this person where it's like, hey, you're going to license that? And literally I had a text message the other day from a friend. They had set up their very first licensing deal. And they literally had this person day one, they sold, I think it was $12,500 worth of the product, and they get 40%. And he was like, this is real. Like this, he didn't believe that literally he basically didn't do anything. And now he's getting, you know, whatever that is, $5,000 roughly. Right. Like he was just so blown away that that's even possible. Right. But he didn't see it before, you know? And so I think it's cool to kind of be able to see that. You don't have to get something all the time from it. Like you can give just to do that and help somebody else out, but it hones the craft, sharpens the things. Like he's in a niche I don't know anything about, but I know the framework, right? Like why wouldn't you, instead of just saying, hey, pay me $10,000, why wouldn't you just license that to them? Because now you will make money into perpetuity.
How do you think someone can get good at spotting opportunities on their own?
Yeah, one way is to look at a lot of opportunity, but you have to know through what lens to look. So
and you said something earlier. I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but you said something earlier that was so important to that, which was like being willing to say no.
Yeah,
because like I know I invest in companies, right? I have a fund that invests money into e-commerce companies, and I invest in the stock market. And I see a lot of deal flow.
Yeah.
And I have friends that will look at it and think, here's how this could work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm managing some other people's capital in my fund. And I'm like, no, because this is how it could go wrong. I have to be willing to say no to that deal in order to find. I actually had it out with my partner about 2 months ago because he had basically negotiated a no risk deal, which he's very good at. He's very good at like finding the no risk deal. And I wouldn't do it. And he's like, I don't understand why you don't want to do this deal. And I was like, because it takes up capacity from us finding the home run deal. This is like, at best, it's a single. And he's like, but we don't have any deals in the pipeline right now. Why wouldn't you take a no risk deal? It's like, because we're not going to find great ones if we're saying yes. And we like had it out. Like we were butting heads. And of course.
Stop for a second. That exactly applies to your trading. Why would you take a mediocre trade that you think you just need to trade because you're anxious, because you haven't traded in a week or 2 weeks, when there is going to be a home run down the road? You just have to be patient.
Right? I love that.
Like put the chips in the table when you got the bullets, not when you got 2-7 offsuit. Right? I mean, sometimes you get too lucky with the 2-7 offsuit. It pays out. But the bullets are a much better bet every time.
And isn't that true with everything?
Yeah.
Like it's true with everything. And that, again, true with relationships.
Sure.
It is true with business opportunities. It's true with investments. Like there's always another one coming. I like the quote that the opportunity of a lifetime comes every 6 months.
Yeah, maybe even sooner, you know. I mean, the thing that you have to think about too is sometimes ones that you think are going to be a single turn into a grand slam, you know, and there's factors outside of your control. And the same note, sometimes you think you got a grand slam and it turns out to be a strike.
Yep.
Right. So it works on both sides. But the thing that you always have to think about, and I mean, I guess my advice to other people is if you're brand new, you have to think about a skill set, right? Like what skill set do you want to be good at if you want to doing this, what I'm sort of talking about here, and you want to like silo that onto other things, right? Like you want to say like, oh, I'm really good at email marketing, right? Well, there's a lot of e-commerce businesses that never email their customers and they never email people who just get on their list.
Ding, ding. I keep waiting for somebody to start an email marketing agency for e-commerce brands. Please hit me up, Ryan@capitalism.com.
Yeah, you can make a lot of money just doing that. And honestly, it could be very simple promotions and you wouldn't need that big of a team to do that, right? You know, you could have a really, really successful business. But if you think about the email side of things, part of that benefit is it's not like in e-commerce, for example. Most people will say, oh, I want to do email in that business. Great, cool. You're going to promote your products. Say you've got 10 products. You could have all kinds of sequences, cross sells, upsells, downsells. But where the real money is then also going, okay, what other products would these people buy? Let's set up some joint venture partnerships, because you can be an affiliate. But where does that also lead you? It leads you to, well, maybe I can get featured on their site. Maybe I can buy traffic from their email list. Maybe they can push a product, or I can white label one of their products to my customers. There's all these other benefits that can come from it as you grow that affiliate and partnership. Maybe they want to buy you eventually, right? Depending on what the business is. But then a lot of people don't think about in e-commerce space, well, what is a lead worth in your space, right? So for example, could you do direct mail, like where basically you sell the buyer data to other companies so they could send direct mail letters to, right? Or if you're in, say, for example, the maternity type space, think how much a lead in the maternity space is worth to Johnson and Johnson or P&G, like whoever, right?
Yeah.
You know, like our diapers company, right? Think about what that's worth to them. And if you had a process in your system that generated those leads and provided value to that customer, whether they may be getting free product or whatever and then you got paid for all of those leads. Next thing you know, you have something where, oh, this business, like my AOV was $100, but oh, okay, like I get this lead now, that's $50 per lead, or I get this thing, that's $30 per commission, that's $50 for that commission. Next thing you know, like you can buy more traffic, you can do all of these other things more, right? Affiliates, you're willing to pay them. Like some people might go, oh, well, all my competitors pay my affiliates 10% on the physical product. What if you paid 20? Who would they promote, right? Probably you, because you're paying them more. Hint, hint, ding, ding. That's what I did, right? That's why we were able to make so much from affiliates, because some of them were paying 2%, some of them were paying 5%. We started at 10, right? So they were immediately interested, you know? So if you think in these slight variations, you can make a lot of that just one little skill. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah. Ryan, I want to close by asking you about fun.
Fun?
Fun.
Okay.
So you travel, you go to UFC fights, you rock climb, you have a very full social life.
Yeah.
I asked you, I think the last time we had dinner, I asked you about your work time. You were talking about your work times. And you're like, you carve out like a couple hours here. You had like 3 hours of work time per day. And I asked you what your work time was like. And you're like, I'm usually reading. I'm like, that's not work time. Right. So you're like the one person I know who actually has like a full fun life, and you're an entrepreneur who's in all of these things. So I
think there's other people that you know.
No, just you.
No.
You're the only one.
No.
So I want to hear about like how you prioritize things in life.
Well, I mean, every week I like to basically sit down on Sundays and look at the next week ahead, right? And figure out what I want to do. And this isn't work, right? I plan work every quarter, and then basically I work the plan for that, right? So that's like, okay, your next 90 days, this is going to be the theme. It's what I'm working on, going to execute. But like I sit down Sunday and I'm like, oh, okay. Like I basically have like a running list. Like, oh, I want to grab coffee with these people, hit some people up, schedule like 2 little coffees. Okay, let's grab dinner one night or have someone over to grill or whatever. And I just put these things in, you know? And so I don't know. It just seems common sense. Like if I'm going to schedule a workout, like why wouldn't I schedule a date, or why wouldn't I schedule a trip or whatever that might be? And so for me, like I'm a big UFC fan. So it's like, I mean, they're pretty good, the big events, like having those, like I know basically to the end of the year, like the dates, right? So it's like, oh, okay, this one's happening in September, this one's happening here, this one's happening here. Like I'm going to block that off. Like I want to go to basically almost all of the pay-per-view events because I love it, right? So yeah, and then I don't know, it's pretty simple.
But do you prioritize fun over work?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I think that's rare.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think work, like, I enjoy everything that I do for the most part.
Sure.
Like, I'm such a direct person that oftentimes I can come off like a bit of a jerk, like via email sometimes, because I'm pretty darn direct, but it's always like from a good place. And, but for me, like, I want to go to the park and play fetch with my dog. Like, I want to, go play frisbee golf. I want to go rock climb. I want to do those things. I want to plan trips with my friends. Like, I don't know why people wouldn't want to prioritize that.
Well, I think most people get into the trap of I will do that when I have time, when I have money.
Yeah,
when
I fell for that trap. That doesn't work.
Tell me about that. What do you mean you fell for that trap?
Yeah, I mean, like early in my career, I would say, oh, you know what? I can't do that because I've got to do this. Right. And then I realized that unless I made time, unless I prioritized that, I would always have that excuse. Because as an entrepreneur, I mean, I could go online today and dig through all these broker sites or email all these brokers and say, hey, I want to buy a new site, send me everything, right? Like, and with these parameters, and I could work for the next 3 weeks just on that, never, like, no social life, nothing, and figure that out. It doesn't really make sense to me. Like, if something comes about, cool, I'll do it, but I'm not going to like live my life that way. I want to prioritize the things that I'm doing, the things that I told myself, hey, when I was 17 years old in high school, realizing I don't want to get a job. I don't want to even go to college. I don't want to work for somebody else. Many of my friends, both of their parents got laid off from this big company in our area, and they were scrambling. I was like, this is not how I want to live my life. And I told myself, man, if I could just make $2-3 grand a month, I would never have to worry about anything. Like, so simple thinking, but it was true. Like, and then all of a sudden people think that, I need to make 10 grand. Like, if I'm making 10, I mean, everyone else is making $1 million. I got to make $1 million. Like, what a loser am I? Like, I make $1 million a year. I'm such a loser. Why am I not making 10 million? And everyone, you're always trying to do that. I got out of that. Like, I just stopped thinking that way. And for me, like, I don't really look at someone and say like, oh, like you're better or you're whatever because you have more money. Like, I've always looked at time, like, and personality. Like, I want if I'm going to be friends with someone, I want to be able to hang out with them. Right. Like, if you're busy all the time, every time I talk to you, like, can't, cause you got to go to work, can't, got to do this, you always joke. Like, when I text you about something, you're like, oh, I swear it's my kids, we'll hang out, whatever. And this is a different circumstance. Right. But like, you have to figure out where those priorities.
You do tend to hit me up only on the weekends that I have my kids, but I forgive you.
It happens. But does that make sense? Like,
it totally does. It's just like, but I think it goes back to the same consistent point of you're happy waiting for the next opportunity. Like, internally, there's always going to be another trade. There's always going to be another opportunity. There's always going to be another business. There's always going to be another relationship. There's always going to be another partner. And I think most entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because it starts with the seed of fear of, I might run out of money.
Right.
I might go broke. And so we're driven by, gotta make this opportunity work because there's scarce opportunity in the world. And you've seen through that matrix, which I think allows you to slow down and say, of course I'm going to go camping. Of course I'm going to go on that RV trip. Of course I'm going to go fly to Vegas with my friends and go to UFC. Like, I don't care that I might miss a trade this Friday. I'm going to close all mine on Thursday, and there's going to be more on Monday. And there's going to be another. I might meet someone in Vegas that opens up a relationship. So I think you have this deep underlying abundance mentality about opportunities.
Yeah.
Thus allowing you to have your pick of which one you want to go after.
Yeah, I think also part of it is like systems and processes, like where, like, if I'm going on vacation, I don't need to close any trades. Like, that's going to be all automated. Like, I don't have to really think about that. Also, like, if I'm thinking about like, okay, I'm going to only work 3 hours today. I had to write an email today for this little promotion that I'm doing to like a very small portion of my list that it was like, okay, this may make money, this may not make money, and it is. So it's like, okay, I'm going to run through this. But if I were to say like, okay, I'm going to write this email and I'm going to do that from 11 to 1, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to do that. It's sort of silly. It would probably take me 2 hours. Or I could sit down and say, okay, you have 20 minutes to write this email. and then I write the email, no distractions in 20 minutes, I hit send. I don't really care if there's typos, right? Like, or it's going to like literally say 1,000 people, right? If I'm doing this for a big e-com brand or something like that, it's a different story, right? But you have to understand, how do you put constraints on the things that you do within your business so that you can actually enjoy your life? And part of that could be hiring a team. Part of that could be, I mean, one of the most miserable times though of my life was when we had like almost 60 staff in the Philippines. We had 4 full-time people in China. We had office in China, office in the Philippines. I was living in Asia. It was weird time zone changes with other stuff that I was doing. We had work in the night shift, all of these other things and outside factors where it's like the things I want to do are during the day, but our office is open 8 to 8, so 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So then I was like, I was trying to sleep during these times, and we had to revert everything because I couldn't live that way, right? And then we had to shift things around, and then finally it was like, I can't live here. I need to leave, right? Like, and so understanding those constraints and changing them and how that's going to apply to you is super important.
Ryan, you're one of the most fascinating people I know.
Oh, thank you very much.
For the record, I don't think you have anything available right now trading wise, right?
Don't.
Okay, so I think in the last 5 years, I counted. So Ryan, actually,
Yeah.
I did a video once endorsing Ryan, and I went, and in the video, I said, I think I've only ever promoted 2 people in the last 5 years. And I wanted to make sure that was true, so I went back and fact checked it, and it was 3. I've only ever promoted 3 people in the last 5 years. Whenever Ryan opens his next thing, we'll promote it. He's on the list of 3 people, and I actually don't promote the other 2 anymore. So you're actually the only affiliate promotion that I do as of right now ever. So Ryan doesn't have anything available right now, but when he opens his stuff, we'll promote it. You, my friend, are the Jordan Peterson of entrepreneurship. Thank you for being with us tonight. Give Ryan some hashtags in the comments, please, if you found benefit out of tonight. It's good to see all of you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you next time. Take care.